Good morning, people. It's Saturday morning in Bradford-on-Avon. It's Saturday morning wherever you are.
Yeah.
But we are going to do something a little bit different today. As we said on the call yesterday, we're going to do the Harry Potters and the Enchanted Wood readings on weekdays.
Monday.
But at weekends, we're going to skip over to picture books. So this morning, we're going to do 3 picture books. First one's going to be The Bog Baby.
Tomorrow's will be in favour of Molly because it's
Yes,
her
we're going to
birthday.
have kind of Molly specials tomorrow.
I think we'll try and find some birthday themed books.
Yes, no,
I
that's
think.
a good thought. That's a good
Are
thought.
we going to be reading all of these in one episode?
This is one episode, yeah. So we're going to have The Bog Baby, then The Seesaw, and then Betty and the Yeti. Obviously, I will attempt to do kind of voices, but will be as poor as I have been on
No, you've been
Harry
good.
Potter. Yeah, my problem is the fact that I tend to forget what voice I've tried to kind of
Yeah.
employ earlier
Once
on.
we were, because we record books as well. Once we were recording one, and it was the Ladybird Herd. He had to do all of the animals. Like one of them was Scottish, one of them was Irish, one of them was just English.
And various people that I work with, like Helen Sparks, for instance, will know that I struggle to maintain an accent for particularly long. Certainly my Scottish accent becomes a little bit Asian.
I can only
towards the
say
end.
one word in Scottish.
All right, what's that?
Scottish.
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 All right.
Scottish.
Tell you what, you can speak Jamaican. If you could, what do you get? Say beer
Beer.
and say can.
Beer can.
And if you put those two together, say what?
Beer can.
Yeah, beer can sandwich.
Okay, you learn something new every
Absolutely. There
day.
you go. You can speak Jamaican. Right. Let's start with the Bog Baby, and
This one
we'll
is so
see if the
nice.
technology will work. I've taken pictures of the words
He's
and
taken
put it onto an
pictures.
iPad, and my able assistant, internet sensation Tinker Quick, is going to try and do the kind of like the words. So let's see how we get on. Okay, The Bog Baby by Jean Willis and Gwen Millard.
I love this book.
Okay. Long ago, when we were little, me and Chrissy did something bad. We said we were going to Annie's house to play, but we didn't. We went fishing all by ourselves, which wasn't allowed. Chrissy said there was a magic pond in Bluebell Wood. It was only ever there in spring. When it rained, it made a huge puddle in the dell, and pond creatures came. We could fish for newts, she said. I won't tell if you won't. So we went. We found the pond. It was squelchy round the edge. The bluebells squeaked under our boots. We fished and fished, but we didn't catch a newt. We caught something much better. We caught a bog baby. He was the size of a frog, only round and blue. He had boggly eyes and a spiky tail, and I do remember he had ears like a mouse. He came swinging through the flower stalks and jumped into the water. He floated up and down on his back and sucked his toes. That's when I fished him out. He didn't struggle. He sat in my hand and looked surprised. He was soft as jelly, like he had no bones. When we stroked him, he flapped his wings. They were no bigger than daisy petals, and they seemed too small for him to fly. Chrissy said he might be able to fly if we blew on his wings. We blew and blew, but all we did was blow him into the mud. He didn't try to escape. He just sat still with his paws over his eyes. We put him in a jam jar, took him home and hid him in the shed. He was our bog baby. He wasn't meant to be a secret. We wanted to show Mum, but we daren't. If we did, she'd know we didn't go to Annie's. We made our bog baby a beautiful home in a bucket. Gravel, shells, clean water. And whenever he saw us, he jumped up and down. We picked him up and played with him. He was very ticklish. We fed him on cake crumbs. We loved our bog baby. Our friends loved him too. We sneaked him into school in a margarine tub. When the teacher wasn't looking, he played in the sandpit and the water tray. In the afternoon, he slept in his tub on a piece of damp cotton wool. Chrissy made him a collar and lead, and we took him for walks in the field. Once a crow nearly ate him, but we scared it away just in time. We took great care of our bog baby, at least we tried, but he got sick. He didn't jump up and down anymore. He went pale and his wings drooped. He wouldn't touch his cake crumbs. We gave him all sorts, but he spat them out. We wanted to ask Mum for help, but we daren't, because of Annie. But the bog baby got thinner. He wouldn't walk on his lead. He hid under his shell. He wouldn't come out, no matter how much we loved him. Mum found us in the shed. Chrissy wouldn't say why we were crying. We'd promised not to tell, but I blabbed. Mum wasn't angry, though. When she saw who was in the bucket, she smiled, and her eyes went misty. She said she hadn't seen a bog baby since she was little. Please make him better, we cried. We love him so much. I know, she said, but the bog baby is a wild thing. He doesn't belong here. He isn't meant to eat cake, or walk on a lead, or sleep in a tub. She picked up the bucket and we followed her out. If we really loved the bog baby, we had to do what was best for him, no matter how much it hurt us. That was real love. That's why we let him go. Back where he belonged. Living in the wood, playing in the pond, sleeping in the damp leaves under the moon. We never saw him again. I think he grew up and had babies of his own. Last spring, my daughter found the magic pond, and guess what she saw? Hundreds of bog babies swinging through the bluebells, catching flies, floating on their backs, sucking their toes. That's what she told me, and that's what I believe. That was the bog baby. Right, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a slurp of tea.
Also, did you know that it had a page that was ripped in there? Had you noticed that?
No, I didn't.
I didn't do it, I swear. I swear.
It's okay.
I didn't
It was
do
probably me taking pictures of it.
Okay.
Okay, and a
Next
slurp
one
of tea.
is the seesaw. So you will notice in this book that the title is actually a play on words.
It is a play on words, because actually it's not. That's not how you spell seesaw, is it?
No,
It's,
I don't know how you
I
do
think
spell
that's,
seesaw.
it's not a
but
word I write down, but I think the seesaw is as in is S-E-E.
But you will see when you read the book, if you haven't read the book.
It's lovely. I think this is actually my personal favourite.
Yes.
It's
I find the
only from
beginning
about
so
last year. It
sad.
looks kind of old-fashioned, but
The
it was
beginning
only
is really
last year.
sad though.
Yep. Okay, The Seesaw by Tom Percival. Sophia's bear was old, tatty, and very loved. It had belonged to Sophia's grandfather, then to her mother, and from the day Sophia was born, the bear had kept her company too. He was less like a toy and more like a friend. Sophia and her bear enjoyed picnics in the park, long walks through the woods, and one day they even went to the seaside. It was a very long journey. Sophia and her father had to catch a train, a boat, and then finally a bus. But it was worth it. The beach was amazing. Sophia even took off her bear's scarf so they could splash in the waves. Her father bought fish and chips, and they all had ice cream for pudding. It really was the most perfect day, until the storm clouds rolled in. Thunder clapped and lightning flashed. Raindrops pounded down onto the sand as they packed everything up and rushed for the last bus home. They were in such a hurry that neither of them noticed a bag fall open and Sophia's bear tumble out. After the storm had blown over, the bear sat alone on the wide, empty beach, and nobody saw but the sea. After a while, a seagull flew down and pecked curiously at the bear. The sea saw this and did not like it one little bit. The sea knew how sad the girl would be to have lost her bear, and so it decided to help. As it took hold of the battered bear, it almost seemed to whisper, "I will take you home." Of course, when Sophia realised that her bear was missing, she was terribly upset. She looked everywhere, but he was nowhere to be seen. Her father telephoned the bus company and the train company and the boat company, but nobody had found a tatty old bear. As soon as they could, they returned to the beach, but there was no bear there. Sophia's father gave her other toys to try. Let's say that again. Sophia's father gave her other toys to try and replace the bear she had lost, but none of them were right. None of them had belonged to her mother. All that Sophia had left now was the bear's small scarf. She snipped a piece off, placed it in her locket for safekeeping, and tried to carry on as best she could, but it was just so hard. Now, it's incredibly difficult to return something when you have no idea who the owner is or where they live. But even so, the sea tried. It washed the bear along through the water, helped by shoals of shimmering fish, a whale, a dolphin, and even an octopus. The bear hitched a lift on a boat, and he was carried along by a seal. The sea always found a way to guide the bear through the water, but it was not an easy journey. When the wind grew cross, whipping the water into towering waves, the sea carried the bear to safety. When the waters grew too cold, the sea would wash the bear onto land, and then with spring, the journey would begin again. The sea became concerned. It was all taking so long. It carried the bear to every beach and every dock and every harbour too, but with no luck. And so the search went on, beyond the oceans, into lakes and along rivers, which was how the bear came to be gently drifting down a stream one sunny afternoon. A young girl saw the bear floating in the shallow waters and went to investigate. Curious, she picked it up and called out to her grandmother to tell her all about this exciting new find. Slowly, the old lady walked out of the house. Then she stopped. She stared silently for a moment, then rushed forwards to scoop up the bear. Sophia hugged her bear close for the first time in many, many years. You see, nothing is ever truly lost if you keep it in your heart. The next day, they returned to the beach Sophia had visited all those years ago. She stood on the warm sand looking out to sea. Then she smiled, and the sea saw.
Get it now?
Get it now? Get it now?
You get it? Get it? You get it?
Okay, and the final one today, Betty and the Yeti by Ella Burfoot.
It rhymes.
And yet again, this is brought to you by a cup of tea. So, Daddy's going to have a quick sup of tea.
Cup of tea.
Cup of tea. Right, Betty and the Yeti by Ella Burfoot. Okay.
Betty and the Yeti.
Okay, do you want to go on to the thing?
Yeah.
That's it. Betty has a little red sled that she takes wherever she goes. She pulls on the ropes and flies down the slopes, whether it freezes or snows. Betty finds things in the snow when she goes out to play. She puts them gently on her sled and then goes on her way. One day she found a pair of gloves. She put them on her sled, and a jingly-jangly fluffy hat which she wore upon her head. And when she saw some snow boots as hairy as a bear, she tried them on her little feet and stamped from here to there. Then she found a woolly scarf, all thick with twigs and leaves, and one enormous smelly coat that came right past her knees. "Do these clothes belong to you?" Betty asked the polar bear. "No," he said, and shook his head. "I don't need clothes to wear. I've got thick fur to keep me warm. I do not mean to gloat, but I've no need for hats or scarves and never wear a coat." "Do these clothes belong to you?" Betty asked a big blue whale. "No," Whale said, and shook her head and splashed her great big tail. "I've got blubber to keep me warm, a special kind of fat, though I do like the bells on that jingly-jangly hat." Do these clothes belong to you? Betty asked an Arctic hare. No, he said and shook his head. Ask that rock over there. What a strange thing, thought Betty, peering at the rock. But I've asked a hare and a polar bear, so I cannot see why not. Hello, rock, said Betty. The rock did not reply. Hello, rock, said Betty. The rock was very shy. But finally there came a voice that said to little Betty, I'm really not a rock at all. I'm actually a yeti. A yeti, squealed Betty, and she tried to run away. But please don't go, the yeti cried. I'd love it if you'd stay. Yetis in the wild, you see, are rather shy and small. We have to wear a lot of clothes to keep us warm at all. My clothes are big and hairy. They give folks such a shock that I threw them all away and hid behind this rock. It's very hard to make a friend in the land of snow when you've scared them all away before you've even said hello. Betty didn't fret at all. She handed him his clothes. You'd better put these on, she said, before it really snows. She took his muddy glove in her little mittened hand and talked with him and walked with him across the frozen land. Soon they met Betty's friends in the cold and snowy night, and the smelly, hairy yeti, well, he gave them quite a fright. But when they saw that Betty had hold of Yeti's paw, they knew they didn't need to be frightened any more. And the hare spoke up quite bravely in a loud and cheerful voice. I'd befriend a yeti, given half a choice. So whale and bear and Arctic hare became the yeti's friends. The yeti kept his clothes on and was never cold again. Betty made a hat like his. She wore it every day. And when she went out on her sled, she jingled all the way. You won't often see a yeti in the land of ice and snow, because unless they've met you once or twice, they're still quite shy, you know. That was from Betty. So that was Betty
I thought it
and
was
the
the
Yeti.
same drawing as Darkness.
It is, which
In?
I always find a little bit creepy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for today. Thank you very much. All have a tremendous Saturday.
Subscribe.
It's oh yes, subscribe down there.
Yeah.
Subscribe down there. It's a little bit cold outside, so wrap up warm if you go outside, which is why we're inside today. But tomorrow, as Emily said, we'll have special books chosen by Molly because it's Molly's birthday. Okay, have a wonderful day.
Goodbye.
Bye.